Welcome back to another episode of OnSlaught Boxing, man. And today we have a very special episode courtesy of our brother IBFP, the best channel on YouTube. Shout out to IBFP for giving me the opportunity to give my prediction and breakdown on Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, man. The time is now. All the talk is done. The fighters are ready. And the fight is about to happen, man. This is a really, really good fight between two elite level champions, and it's rare to see two elite level champions meet in a fight with such high stakes. And I want to just get into it, give a detailed breakdown, look at both sides, see what both fighters do well, and what both fighters can capitalize on each other's sides. And then at the end, I'm going to give my opinion on who I think would edge the fight. So let's get right into it without any further ado. Now, we're going to get started with Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is one of the best counterpunchers in the sport, if not the best counterpuncher in the sport. He's what they call a proactive counterpuncher. Terrence Crawford baits and sets up traps against his opponents to get them to overreach so he can make them pay. And he does this consistently across all of his fights. Also, we see Canelo has a tendency to overreach in certain instances, especially towards the end of the fight when he's more desperate to try to land something huge. Also, Terrence Crawford is really good at catching his opponents in between their combinations, in between their punches when they're most vulnerable. Now, Canelo Alvarez is a great counterpuncher in his own right, but he's more reactive than proactive, meaning that he'd rather wait for his opponent to commit to his offense first, then respond, whereas Terrence Crawford is more tricky with baiting his opponents into overcommitting and catching them when they're most vulnerable. Canelo loves to feint with his lead hand and pound the shoulders with heavy hooks to break down high guards. He's been extremely effective in this in his recent fights, and it's one of his most common combinations. But here's the issue. Against Terrence Crawford, he can't do it because it's simply too predictable. He can't probe with his lead hand right in front of Terrence Crawford and then lunge in with a wide hook to Crawford's shoulder. It's just too predictable for Bud. He's going to be able to counter it. Fighters like William Skull and Dimitri Bivol already found consistent success countering those shoulder shots off the ropes. Even Berlanga and Charlo noticed it, but their timing just wasn't sharp enough to capitalize on it. Crawford's timing is nearly perfect, and he'll be ready to counter Canelo clean every single time he tries this combination. So Canelo will need to switch it up to avoid getting countered off the hook. Another major weakness Canelo has shown recently is lunging in with those wide, loaded up punches. When he does that, not only is it predictable, but it leaves himself off balance. Dimitri Bivol alluded to this in an interview when they asked him what was one of the major mistakes that he capitalized on with Canelo. He said Canelo loads up on too many of his shots. Crawford thrives in these types of moments, being a natural counterpuncher himself. His distance management is razor sharp, and he uses it to lure opponents forward, forcing them to reach over. That's exactly how he caught Errol Spence knock him down when he was stretched out in that position. Canelo should not overreach against Terrence Crawford, because if he does, he's going to be eating counters all night. Then there's the jab, the most important weapon against Canelo. Crawford arguably has one of the best jabs in boxing today, if not the best jab. It's fast, versatile, and backed up by a 4-inch reach advantage. Combine that with his elite distance management, and it becomes really difficult for Canelo to close the gap without getting tagged. And we've seen Canelo struggle with opponents' lead hands before, like Gennady Golovkin, Dimitri Bivol. Against Crawford, it'll be a nightmare to get past that jab consistently. And there's also a major detail that matters when we talk about Canelo Alvarez dealing with his opponent's lead hand. When Canelo walks forward, he often breaks his stance, opening a window for a sharp jab to the head or body that cuts off his momentum. Floyd, Gennady Golovkin, and Bivol all punished him with this. Crawford is going to use the same tactic to break Canelo's momentum before he even gets into range. Canelo has great ring cutting ability, there's no doubt about it. He knows how to trap opponents against ropes and corners. But what does he do when he gets them there? That's where the major issue is. He tends to load up on single powerful shots, just like we talked about before. And when they miss or get blocked, he just lets his opponent slip out. Look at how Dimitri Bivol neutralized those big hooks. He simply moved in the same direction as them, and then he just reset. He was able to take the steam off of Canelo's powerful punches, which can do serious damage to fighters' shoulders, like Callum Smith, for example. Compare that to fighters like Naoya Inoue or Gervonta Davis, who trap their opponents with combinations and gradually wear them down. Canelo doesn't really apply that kind of layered pressure anymore, And, Crawford's legs and ring IQ will let him escape while countering effectively. Canelo hasn't shown any major stamina issues lately, but he does tend to slow down in the later rounds. Crawford, while on the other hand, builds as the fight goes on, and he's shown this against active fighters like Israel Madrimov. He maintained the high pace and actually looked stronger in the second half. Now, that was at 154, and we don't know how he'll carry the same engine at 168. But if he does, he can make those championship rounds a real nightmare for Canelo Alvarez. Now, with all of that laid out, let's get into what would be a good game plan for Terence Crawford. In the early rounds, he should look to establish the jab immediately. Keep the fight mid to long range. He needs to use his reach advantage, stay on the move, and pile up volume from the outside, and force Canelo to constantly reset. In the middle rounds, Crawford should be fully adjusted to Canelo's speed and timing, and this is where he can start making calculated risks, like catching Canelo around the guard, mixing in counters while still staying cautious, of course. He doesn't want to give Canelo any chance to swing momentum. Then in the late rounds, this is where Crawford's discipline and composure matter the most. Canelo will be pressing hard, looking for the knockout. He'll overreach, lunge, and try to walk Crawford down. But that's exactly what Bud wants. He needs to control the distance, let Canelo make mistakes, and punish him with sharp counters. If Crawford sticks to this blueprint, he could walk away with a clear decision victory. Now, that may seem like a lot of advantages for Terence Crawford and a lot of things for him to capitalize on against Canelo Alvarez, but don't be fooled. Canelo Alvarez is the favorite for this fight, and it's for a damn good reason. And we're going to get right into Canelo Alvarez's advantages and things that he could take advantage of on Terence Crawford's side. The first thing we're going to talk about is off-rhythm offense. One of the best ways to beat a proactive counterpuncher like Crawford is to take away his ability to set traps, and that means breaking his rhythm. If we look at the fighters who had the most success on landing on Bud Crawford, they all had something in common. Gamboa, Kavaliauskas, Shawn Porter, and Madrimov. Gamboa hurt Crawford early with sudden explosive blitzes. Kavaliauskas caught him clean by firing hard, unpredictable combinations. Shawn Porter had rounds of success when he darted in and out, throwing awkward offbeat shots. And of course, Israel Madrimov found openings while feinting on the outside and then exploding in spurts. There's a common thread here with all of Terence Crawford's opponents. Don't let Terence Crawford think. Don't give him time to set up traps. And Canelo can absolutely replicate this. He has the versatility to feint, step in with sudden bursts, and blitz Crawford when needed. We know this because this is exactly how Canelo dismantled Caleb Plant. He didn't give Caleb Plant any time to think or box. He completely manhandled him on the ropes using his lead hand. Didn't even give Caleb Plant the ability to let off combinations effectively. If Canelo mixes up his tempo and keeps Bud guessing, he can disrupt Crawford's rhythm and land clean shots. Crawford clearly has a superior jab and more reach to go with it, but Canelo has the perfect weapon to neutralize it, his head movement. Pound for pound, Canelo has the best head movement in boxing, and when he's in defensive mode, he's incredibly hard to hit clean. Even Dimitri Bivol, who threw over 700 punches, has stretches where he struggled to land cleanly because of Canelo's upper body movement, and that's a huge factor here. Crawford's head movement isn't anywhere near as good as Canelo's, right? He can pump the jab all he wants, but if Canelo can slip and weave through it consistently, he'll close the distance and get in the range without paying the price. Canelo's ability to cut off the ring is definitely one of his strongest assets. Against Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders, he consistently trapped them against the rope and corners, forcing them into exchanges. Now, while he sometimes let his opponents escape after landing shots, the fact remains that very few fighters can escape Canelo's pressure for all 12 rounds. All Canelo needs to do is tighten up his combinations instead of loading up on those single shots, and he can pin Crawford down and make him fight uncomfortable in spots, just like he did with Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant. Canelo's body punching is some of the most destructive in the sport. He systematically broke down Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant to the body before finishing them upstairs. Against Rocky Fielding, every single body shot he threw folded Rocky Fielding. If Canelo can dig to Crawford's body early, he can sap Bud's legs, limit his mobility, the very thing Crawford relies on to control distance. Canelo has been campaigning at super middleweight for years, beating naturally bigger men like Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant. Even at 175, Canelo managed to knock out Kovalev, who was a much bigger fighter, and Canelo was moving up 2 weight classes from 160 when he did that. Crawford is moving up 2 weight classes to meet him there. Even if Bud Crawford is the same size as Canelo physically and has enough skills to compete, there's still a question of whether his power and durability hold up against a natural 168-pounder. Canelo has proven power at the weight, Crawford hasn't. Finally, the biggest advantage of all is Canelo Alvarez's chin. In nearly 70 fights, he has never been dropped, rarely hurt, and always composed under fire. Fighters like Gennady Golovkin landed flush on him, shots that would have stopped or dropped most fighters, and Canelo didn't budge at all. Not only does he have a granite chin, a strong neck, but he rolls with the punches to take the sting off. This matters a lot because Crawford is known for his finishing ability. He's one of the best finishers in the sport. But against Canelo, the knockout threat is not realistic at all. Canelo will not respect Terence Crawford's power the way other opponents have, and that'll give him the confidence to walk through Crawford's punches and force Bud into tough exchanges. Now let's get into a great game plan for Canelo Alvarez to win a comfortable decision against Crawford. In the early rounds, Canelo needs to take away Crawford's jab with his head movement. Get inside, go hard to the body. He needs to invest in the body early. This is going to be good for later rounds because it's going to slow down Crawford's legs, and then Canelo's going to be able to land even more powerful punches later on in the fight. In the middle rounds, Canelo needs to increase the pace and mix up the rhythm. Feint, jab, then explode in short combinations. Canelo does this extremely well if you've watched his recent fights. Don't let Crawford get comfortable at long range. Keep him where you want him and control the pace of the fight. In the late rounds, Canelo needs to push Crawford back and apply relentless pressure, force him into tough exchanges. Even if Crawford is still fresh, Canelo's size and power and chin will allow him to take risks late that Crawford will not. If Canelo sticks to this plan, mixing his rhythm, cutting off the ring, and pounding to the body, he has a very real path to an easy victory. This fight is razor close. Both men have clear weapons and strategies that can win them rounds. The fighter who sticks to his game plan, makes less mistakes, and stays disciplined for all 12 rounds will likely come out on top. But when I look at the stylistic matchup, Crawford's jab, counterpunching, distance control, and stamina, I believe he has the tools to neutralize Canelo's strengths. In my personal opinion, I see Terence Crawford walking away with a decision victory over Canelo Alvarez, but it's not an easy pick, and it can easily go the other way. But with that being said, I laid out all the facts here, and if you have another opinion based off what I laid out, that's perfectly fine. Definitely leave it in the comments below. And then again, appreciate IBFP for giving me the opportunity to come onto his platform and give my opinion and break down the fight. Peace out.